Hello and welcome to our Unfiltered LinkedIn Live. I'm so excited to be joined by Neal from NOAN. Neal, it's so good to have you.
Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Excited to chat a little bit about what it means to be an AI native business, what that looks like, the difference between that and ChatGPT. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We'll get connected and yeah, I'll ask you some questions from there.
Yeah, I'm one of the founders of Known. Put simply, somebody said this to me yesterday. They said, "You're shipping a company," which is true. So we're building an AI native business and we ship it to our users so they can essentially be AI native too. My background, the last 7 years, I was running a consulting division of an agency out of New York, working with a lot of global brands on transformation, so future of product, membership, subscription, content, all across everything from how you show up to then how you structure and think about your teams. And then I originally came through the publishing space, working at News Corp under the CTO in Australia, as the business migrated around subscription. And then prior to that, I was actually a journalist the first part of my career. So came up into that kind of product
Yeah.
development route, which it makes sense when you understand that news was one of the first industries to be hit by like having to transform its entire business model. That then led me into the path of where I've got to today.
So let's chat a little bit. There's a few things. So, just on the journalism thing quickly. So you're saying you used to be a journalist. Best thing about it, worst thing about it.
Greatest job in the world. You just see things people will never see. You experience things you'll never experience without it. Honestly, it really is. And I'm envious of a lot of my friends who still do it. And worst thing about it, being a founder is hard. The
Yes,
hours, and it is really hard, and it's got terrible. It's
it is
got a
hard.
lot of
I was gonna
hours.
say all the founders are like, yeah.
Yeah, being a founder is hard. The hours in journalism are pretty brutal, and it's always on. In a different way. It's a
Mm,
different type of always on. You can't screw up, and a lot of people thrive on that, which is why I think it's quite a good pathway from being a journalist straight into being a founder eventually.
seems to. Yeah, last question on this. So what have you taken into being a founder from the journalism?
The only thing you can control is your own behavior, which is like a weird, like what you do, right? So a lot when you're in
Yeah.
journalism, particularly when you're in foreign news, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening, and you can be in very deadly environments. And the only thing you can control is your own behavior in that environment and not panicking, and just working out what the next step is and to move forward and take that step and be positive. And then there's no point looking back, right? Because like that's done. Like
Mm,
you have to just make the next decision. And in news, there's no time to think about the decisions that went. It's just next one, next one, next one. And building a startup, I'm learning like that is one of the most key things to take. And if you're not from that world, I think it's quite new to people. But okay, what's the
mhm.
next move we're going to make? Make it. What's the next move we're going to make? Make it. Don't harp on about the past. Just keep stepping forward.
Yeah, I think that's great. One step at a time. I think we often say that. It's like, okay, what's the next step? Let's just take that step as founders. I love that. So now I want to talk a little bit about being an AI native business. I think those sorts of terms are thrown around. I don't know that everyone understands them. So I would love for you to give us a little bit of context around like what it means to actually be an AI native business.
Well, there's two ways most businesses are using AI, right? Number one is somebody is banging away on ChatGPT or Anthropic on the side, telling about their company. Maybe they've got the team plan, but they're banging away and everyone's banging away independently.
Yeah.
The second way is that they're pointing the LLM at their absolute shit show of business documents. And that's the first thing to understand is every single company out there, for the most part, if they're not truly AI native, is a complete mess of knowledge, PDFs, docs all over the place. And they're
Yes.
hoping by integrating LLMs into that they're going to get the accurate output from the right deck that was buried from 3 years ago. And it just doesn't happen. That's the way most people are using AI. Like an AI native business, we went back to the drawing board and went, how do you structure a business if ultimately knowledge and a single source of truth is at the center of it, so that everyone is working from that same source of truth? And then how do you build a platform on top of that? And it's funny because it impacts everything about the way you think about development, because so much of what you do is based on the history of the way people behaved. And when you start to build a
Mm,
company truly AI native, you realize first principles thinking is absolutely vital. Like, what are we really trying to achieve? And what's the shortest path to get there? How could we do this in the easiest possible way? and could AI achieve it, you rethink the way you build product, you rethink the way the team works. But I think most importantly, you centralize knowledge. And I don't just mean like dumping knowledge. You're building a business based on the knowledge. It's the core foundation. And you fundamentally change the way you kind of structure your organization.
It's so interesting because before we got connected, I still remember Rebecca and I were going for a walk and we were like, that's it's the source of truth that's frustrating for us, right? Like everybody is putting in what they want. There's nothing that is actually the source of truth. So the minute we got connected to you, we were like, oh yes, this makes so much sense because it's actually that's the source of truth that we're looking for. And to your point, there's a document here, there, not necessarily with us, but like we see that more and more and more. And so I think that source of truth, to your point, is critical.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
not everyone realizes that until they have one, and then it's like, okay.
It's funny because in every single organization I've worked with, and I've worked with some of the biggest in the world, been fortunate to work with, incredibly talented people at some of the world's biggest companies, they're all an absolute mess. Like an absolute
Mm,
mess. I've had chairmen of Fortune 500 companies saying, and CEOs saying, why is the sales team using information from 5 years ago? And the sales team's using pitch decks and materials that are 5 years old, and they're not even in the right brand, and they don't even use the right product names. And
yep.
the UX team has named things completely different to the content team,
The
and everything.
conventions.
It's a complete mess. They all are like, and then so it does not
Mm,
surprise me that 95%, that latest study, 95% of enterprise rollouts fail because you're trying to implement AI in that environment. If you are AI native, you leave that at the door and you say, okay, park that old way of working, rethink a business model. And
mm,
on Known, the way you build that business model, for anyone who's not tried it, is you build it around facts. Ultimately, your business is just facts that you should be able to control. And I'm very bullish on the fact that the future of AI human interaction is ultimately fact control and what
mm,
AI knows and what we know and what we can control of that information. And so that is part of being AI native. And then the other thing that I think is really vital is, there's a big difference between, and you'll spot this, there's a massive tell, right? And there are products where they have implemented AI as a bolt-on or an add-on, and there are those that are truly AI native products. When you get on an AI native product
mm.
like Known, for example, it feels magical. Everything works and it's doing things for you and it's automating things for you. Comet of Perplexity is another great example of an AI native browser. Like really like magical experience when you're on it. The ones that aren't, the biggest tell is that you'll see the sparkles icon. Like when you see a sparkles icon on a product, you know that that's not an
You
AI
know.
native product because that means they've bolted AI on and they're trying to say AI is over here. We banned the
Mm.
sparkle icon at the beginning. Literally, when we first found it known, we were like, no sparkles icon. This because it's silly. It doesn't make
It
any
will
sense.
not be.
It
Yeah.
can't be. But yeah, that single source of truth like is the most important thing at every organization, and most organizations
Mm.
do not actually have it.
Yeah. And I think it's honestly it's integral to what you do. I think for us, so we work obviously a lot fractionally inside different companies, marketing strategies, that sort of thing. And there's nothing worse for us than when we've crafted a strategy, put it all together, executed, put everything in place, and then you exit and then you look back and you're like 3 months down the line, like those brand colors are not brand colors. That's not the language. There's the chat GPT left, right, and center. And you're just like, oh, your heart breaks a little bit, which is why the source of truth, having those like facts to your point, is like that is a game changer for us in particular. But around that, we talk about like transformation and what AI native looks like in transformation. And for you, what's some of like the biggest shifts that you've seen? Obviously, like you said, you've worked in some incredible places, been in the industry for a long time. What are some of those shifts that you're seeing? Um,
I mean, I think the most important thing for anyone who's running a business of any size, right, whether they are a small business owner or they are a mid-sized company or an enterprise company, and we've kind of got all three on Known now, is to recognize that this is a full transformation of how your company operates. Like that's the most important thing. You have to understand that, and it's a reorganization and a re-architecting of the way it's structured, the way your processes work. You essentially need to kind of throw out everything that you've worked on before and rethink that. Now, good kind of proxies for this and good ways to think about this are like the publishing shift, right, which we saw was a transition from mass reach, like newspaper, print, advertising, to subscription model of owning the customer
Mm,
relationship. And that re-architected the business with a new focus around driving people to subscription. Now, the difference with AI is actually the reality is that it's less of an external change where like there's subscription for users. It's not that kind of change, but actually internally, you need to re-architect your organization in the same way
mm,
and centralize it around ultimately what we've talked about, which is like knowledge, because that's what AI is going to reference and leverage.
mm.
And so that's like one of the big transitions that is really important to understand. And it's much easier, fascinatingly, for smaller businesses to do because they own
Yes.
all the different areas of it, right? They own sales, they own marketing, they can do it all themselves. Much easier to execute. It's much harder for global companies. And what we're seeing amongst the enterprise businesses coming on known is that they're actually
Mm,
centralizing teams to do that rather than deploying across the whole organization. And then you can roll it out. So you centralize a team that's rethinking the way the
mm.
organization works and then rolling it out from there.
Oh, that's really cool though. And to your point, I can imagine that enterprise is so much more challenging because of the size, everything. You're not necessarily hands-on and in. But talking around that knowledge, like why is knowledge so important? Because this has been discussed left, right, and center. But for you, why is it that knowledge is so important? And having a source of truth, all of that in known, why is it something you'll maybe harp on about?
So for me, like I think if you really break down what AI is, it's a knowledge referencing machine. Plus, then it's ultimately working out what it needs to serve to you next. Like in reality, that's what it does, right?
Yes.
And the biggest missing link for pretty much every organization is the knowledge part, right? That's and if you're just using AI that's been completely trained on the open web, it's going to be guessing. A good way I describe this to somebody is if you were to walk down the street, the big difference between having good knowledge and bad knowledge with AI is if you were to walk down the street and there's one person and you say, "How do I get to the pub?" and they tell you go two streets on the right and then one on the left, you'll be like, "Right, great, they know where I'm going." If you walk out
Yeah.
into the street and there's 100 people shouting different things at you, you're not going to know where to go. And that's what most organizations are asking AI to do when it comes to distilling their information is they're giving it 100 versions of the truth and then saying which one is it. And fascinatingly, if you want to test, just go into ChatGPT and ask it, how would you perform if I gave you a shit show of business knowledge? And it will literally tell you how bad the output will be. It's that easy as to like to understand what the
Mm.
problem is for most people.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think, but it's still, and maybe this is it. Why do you think it is something that it's that obvious, right? But so many companies are still doing it. Um, and I wonder if you think like, why? Why do you think they're actually, it is obvious that something needs to change, but it's still, people, it's a part of what they do. It's, oh, well, just ChatGPT it. Oh, why don't you just put that strategy through ChatGPT? And it's like, well, there are many reasons. But why do you think it is still something that people seem slow to like adapt with?
I think most organizations, most people have only ever worked in a silo. So they're used to working in their swim lane. And again, this goes back to why small business owners get it faster than anybody else. Because like if you've worked at a global company, you've probably worked in a silo your entire career. And
True.
you don't realize that like your knowledge is impacted by somebody else's, but also you probably don't realize that like the processes you're working on, and research has shown this as well, the processes you're working on have probably organically developed over time and nobody quite knows why, but you're doing them 20 years later, and they're based on like a mess of corporate structure. Unpacking that is hard unless you get a view across the entire thing. And there's been amazing studies done where they've taken teams and brought them together and
Mm,
got them to work collaboratively, which is largely what I spent the last 15 years doing, working in collaborative teams across organizations to help restructure them. And when you do that, people realize how much of a mess the knowledge is. And they realize like many people want to give up their job. They're, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing?
he's
And
like,
I
no.
yeah, and it's the biggest challenge to be honest. Like for us, it's like the biggest thing.
Mm,
We're trying to unravel like what is really the corporate shit show and reorganize it and re-architect it for AI, which is a massive challenge. But unless you've seen it and understand it, you probably wouldn't recognize it until you start to see the output, and then
mm.
you can get the difference.
So, I mean, what would you say to a leader in corporate like that now when it comes to these sorts of things? Like, what's one piece of advice? What's maybe a starting point that you would actually say to them?
I'd say that if the first thing is if you want to get to a point where you're truly AI native, you should be able to make one decision by just talking to AI and have it ripple across your organization. That, and everyone understand it immediately. Like that's the holy grail, right? One change, boom, everyone knows
Yeah.
it straight away. That is the holy grail, and that's what we're trying to
That,
build.
yeah, that is like if we can
Yeah.
achieve that.
And it's possible on like that's what we're building on known, right? But for you at a large
Mm,
organization, if you're a corporate leader, that should be your gold standard of where you need to get to.
mm,
Most of them will recognize that that's not possible, and they're very messy, and they will have dealt with the structures of I don't understand why my team does this and team does that. I think my biggest piece of advice is to think about kind of three key areas of the business that you can make change. And a great mentor of mine told me once, there's only three areas of the business you can change at any time. And so you need to pick like a different area and focus on one thing and make it happen in one part of the organization, and then do the same somewhere else and do the same somewhere else for a different thing. And then you bring the three things together, and the organization started to change. People get overwhelmed if you implement too much change. So my advice is to like pick an area and focus on restructuring the knowledge, restructuring the way that they think about AI, then gradually bring other teams on. You know, a great example we're seeing is there's a large company that's using Known where they're centralizing their marketing around AI and being AI native. Then they're going to bring the sales team on, then the corporate comms team on,
mm.
and then everybody all of a sudden starts to expand and they all become AI native. Um, so really think strategically about how you roll it out, but also set your goal to be like, you know, truly AI native. Make one change and have it ripple everywhere in seconds. That should be the gold standard for what you're
The
trying to
goal. Yeah, I love that. It's like the unraveling on one hand, but then the ripple effect on the other hand. So it's almost like you unravel to then have this ripple
do.
effect,
Yeah.
which essentially is like it's gold, right?
Yeah.
That's actually what you want once you've been able to unravel it, and kind of ripple it. So I would love to also ask you a little bit around Known and what are some of the things that you do. As I mentioned, like we are proud Known partners. We are using it. We're using it with our clients through like a 90-day roadmap that we do, which is strategy and also looking at different things, but it allows us to create the source of truth, the facts, knowledge blocks, all of that. So I'd love to hear from you, a little bit around what makes Known different in what you do and how it kind of works.
So we're building a product around two key things, which we're incredibly bullish on. One is voice. Like we're building for voice control, and we've started there. Like Gnome will be full voice control, and we focused on how we develop the whole product around that. The second is it's based always on a single source of truth. So any user who's working with the Known Assistant, the known assistant always has in its mind a single source of truth, which is facts, and we call those smart blocks, which are blocks of knowledge. That means that everybody is working on ultimately the same playbook. And if you make a strategic change to one of those facts, it's immediately updated for anyone across the team, whether it's somebody in marketing, a creator, in sales. And then as part of that, we've also got multiple other aspects where you can manage your whole network within there. So you've got AI native CRM. And for us, I think one of the most important things is that, you know, it just makes everything easy for everybody. Because, you know, we use fractionals, you know, like a lot of companies, we have fractionals
Mm.
come on. Our fractional growth lead rebuilt all of our emails in 20 minutes without needing an onboarding to the company because it was all in known. It was all in as a single source of truth. He immediately jumped in, started working with the assistant, used the create feature, created the content. It was all accurate. And I think what makes us a bit unique is we use our own product to run our own company, and then we build the stuff and then ship them to everyone else, which is such a fun thing to be doing. And so, you know, what's fascinating is every time we're like, wow, we've got a use case for this, we'll then integrate it into Known and then ship it to our user base and they'll test it. And then vice versa, they will, you know, they'll suggest things that
Mm.
they need for their companies, which inevitably we'll need for ours. So it's a great feedback loop of product development, of like building an AI native company kind of openly with an audience, which we're loving.
Yeah, I think even from our side, I think it's great to see that somebody will suggest something, and next thing you're like, okay, cool, yes, we're definitely going to add that in. So it almost feels like this collaborative building of the product, which I love. I think like we love collaboration, but to see it in like live motion And you're constantly like, hey, if there's something you want and you think it'll be helpful, like just tell me, which is really refreshing because that's not often how things go. So I think to have this like live product build while you're, working together is quite incredible. And sure keeps you on your toes as well.
But it's also interesting because, I was talking to an advisor of ours, and it's quite hard for a lot of organizations to do because they were like, oh, you've got to be careful because people want to build all these other features. But this is a bit different.
Mm,
We're not trying to bolt onto your company structure. Everyone who's using Known
exactly.
is
Yeah.
trying to actually rebuild their company structure around what we're doing. So you don't really ever find you get a request which only works for one person. Like everyone's actually
Yeah.
saying, hey, can you do the AI native version of this? Yeah, no worries. We'll integrate that because we need it as well. It's
Hmm.
really unique. Whereas most of the time, people are like dropping into an enterprise business and saying, "Hey, we'll make your sales workflow better. What's your sales workflow? We'll now deploy some engineers in there and help you build it. Maybe
Mm.
time stuck, and you have to be careful." Like that's not what we're doing. It's like we're building an AI native company. We're shipping it to you. If you use it, then great. We'll get more people, and so it's quite a fascinating and fun kind of place to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're having more fun than most people. But again, keeps you on your toes. I wanted to just touch on, you were talking about voice and the importance of it. How do you integrate that into Known? I mean, I remember our, first sort of demo call, we were chatting and you were constantly talking to your computer and they were like, how is he doing this? Like, what is the cheat code there? But yeah, you're bullish about it, like you said. Obviously, voice is the future, and I think that's where people are going. But what does that look like as you integrate it into Known? And
Well,
why are you so bullish about it?
yeah, I mean, no, I think the first thing is it makes you rethink how you build the product. Because if you want to build a voice-based product, you have to build a product that's controllable by natural language, and then that makes you rethink every feature, functionality, how you name it, all of that you have to work through. That's the first thing. The second thing is then, we've built it already to be integrated with like dictation. So I use Willow, which I love. It's a great product. We use Willow
Yes,
as a dictation
I
tool.
got it after.
Yeah, and I think the thing is there, like, that's the first step. We've actually just got on the 11 Labs like grant program, and we'll be integrating like voice and natural language straight into the product, so you can just talk straight to the product,
Wow.
which will be coming soon. And you need a lot of architecture and a lot of thinking to enable that. But the reason I'm bullish on it is like, for me, if you go and talk to a lot of business owners, and I'm talking not just small business, medium business, or even CEOs, they spend a lot of time on their phone. Like actually,
Mm.
and what's really fact, there is one in, because you'll often meet people who are like, voice, and I'm like, just go work with someone in business. They'll be leaving you voice messages all the time. I guarantee you. Like, and I guarantee you,
It's
like
yeah.
WhatsApp voice messages constantly, right? Like, and that's because like you're busy, but you've got to get something over, you've got to get some information over. And so,
Mm.
we're really bullish on that. But I think the other thing that to me is such a good addition is that, we know that and this is just, it's a bit anecdotal, but we've had a lot of founders say to us, like, they might be, they might not be the best writers, for example, and they might not be the best with language, but immediately if they're using voice dictation, it's opened it up to them. And
Mhm.
from a accessibility perspective, voice opens up a lot. And there's a lot of people who've had barriers to building companies, and all of a sudden, like with voice and voice enabled products, they can do that, right? And you
Mm.
could be from any different background and able to actually build a company, and you don't have to just rely on copy or text. There's other ways to do it. So I think that is one of the most exciting parts that like not enough people are talking about is what AI, when it's built AI natively, enables. You can't do that if you're a bolt-on AI product. You're not going to be opening up accessibility. But if you're truly AI native, the accessibility options are really exciting for people around the world.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, for me, I just realized how much time, like using Willow, it's like just a Willow plug there. We don't get anything from it, but download Willow. It saved me so much time. So even just from a time saving aspect, I was like, whoa, okay, if I'm not in the office and I'm actually just like sitting, work from home maybe that day, just like constantly going like, wow, I've saved so much time. I've got to do what I need to do. It is in my tone, in my voice, all of that. It was actually a game changer. I didn't realize how much time I actually spend trying to get my thoughts out or
Yeah.
whatever it might be, so much easier. Which to your point, I do think it is crucial that it is kind of part of what you're building. which is also like a really cool kind of feature.
I think I think you're going to find a lot of people moving to voice. And interestingly, it works really well for people who work remotely, right? Like if you're using voice at home, it's much
Yes,
easier than using it in an office. And I
it's a
think you'll
lot
find
easier.
like a delineation there. But we know a lot of people, everyone messages me when if they see me do a demo and I'm talking to known using dictator, people straight away are like, hey, how do I do that? I want to do that. That's
Yeah,
great.
what are you doing? Us included, definitely. So I wanted to ask, you want to give us a sneaky little demo there? Maybe a quick one where we can see Known live and in action. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, I'm actually also, for anyone watching, I have LinkedIn open. We'd love to answer some of your questions. So if you have questions, let us know while we kind of go through a little bit of a demo here to see.
Yeah, let me throw it up. There we go. So yeah, just for anyone watching, let me see. There we go. You see my screen?
Yes.
So like I mentioned, like Known is built completely AI native. It's based around two key things, and I'll really just talk about those today. There's lots of functionality in here, but I'll just talk about those two key things we discussed because I think they're key. The first is that it's natural language control. So everyone working on Known is working from the same source of truth, but with an assistant that you can control either by voice or by text. So I use, for example, Willow, like we just talked about that. And we will add a quick, task. So we'll just say, add a task to onboard a new customer, David Smith. And the assistant's going to work out what I need. And there's multiple models working behind the scenes here. And then it's going to create that task straight away. And you're going to see that pop up over there. So it almost feels like magic. And our users are using this. We had a user in our WhatsApp group who was like, I'm on the beach and I'm just adding all the tasks that I need to be working on the next day, all by voice. Now, this assistant can control pretty much the whole product, add tasks, add notes. So we could do really quickly, add a note to look at expanding into the South African market. I'm just going to drop that in there for you guys. And you see the assistant's thinking about it. And then straight away, it's added a note. And you'll find that over here in the notes section. And this will be auto-segmented into business. There it is. It's then available for anyone to recall at any time. And this is really the power of when you're talking to a product and it's fully AI native, it ultimately should be able to control and execute most of what you see and engage with. There's a few areas we're rolling out over the next couple of weeks that are going to really supercharge that. But this assistant is kind of your center point. Most people come in here and they're working in this workspace. We see up to like 6 hours a day, which is kind of crazy when you consider it.
Wow.
But the real reason is this assistant, yes, it can control the product, but most importantly, it knows and understands the facts of your business. And this is what we were just describing. So when we talk about facts, like this is the only place this company name is mentioned. This is the fact for the company. And what's really important, I think, to understand about like the way we interact with AI is that most people are using AI to reference facts, reference like documents, and knowledge. So most people are using AI to reference documents, reference disconnected knowledge. We're using facts to control AI. And that is vital. And that's a big change. So you can control and manage these facts in Known. And what's funny is I've actually had quite a few users who've signed up from bigger companies at this screen where they've said, like, we have nowhere in our company is this well organized. And so you can edit these facts, you can generate these facts. This one's for a gym here in Sheffield. You can generate them with different models. We use those as like an infrastructure layer. The history of the fact is always there. And this is just another thing that I think is really important in the future of AI is like an audit trail of who tweaked and changed what and what changes were made, right? Whether it's you or whether it's an assistant
Crucial, yeah.
or whether it's an agent, you need to know. And the history of all those is there and you can revert to them anytime. So this is just really important. When we talk about a single source of truth, this is what we mean. I think when most people talk about a single source of truth, they mean a Notion doc that's got 30,000 pages that
Yes.
are connected, right? Where like 20,000 of them mean the same thing in different ways.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. And why this is really important is when you set these facts live, everyone's working from them with the assistant, or everyone can also create from them in Known as well. And then when they're generating things, they can do it in seconds. So I won't go into depth on this today, but good example, we hired a data scientist and the job description was written in 20 seconds with a one-line prompt. all done in create mode. And I think one of the other key things that's really important is if you're using a truly AI native product, you shouldn't have to do 10 lines of prompt.
Mm,
The world of prompt packs is almost archaic now. Like the product should be built in a way that you don't need prompts and you're actually like working through it and it knows and understands what you're trying to
mm,
execute. And a lot of what you're going to see, I think, over the next like 3 or 4 years are going to be products where the world of prompting is taken away. And they just become really simple and they know and understand you and what you're trying to achieve, whether it's in like the consumer space, the B2B space. You're going to see products that are really easy and really simple to use. And then, just on that, we'll really quickly just show you kind of known networks. So we'll add that. What should we do? Add a new contact to our network, Owen Jones. Email is owen@owenjewelers.com. He's CEO of Owen Jewelers. Add a memo that we met on a golf trip. Now, I don't play golf anymore, but I did back in the day. But we'll do that really quickly. And the assistant, again, via natural language, is going to work out what we need. And it's going to go and add that to our network. So Owen's now in our network, right? So we'll jump across into known network and we will just bring up Owen. There he is. And you'll see straight away that like all of the relevant information, and this is what I mean by AI native, has been passed out. There's his name straight away. There's his email. It's created the company, Owen Jewelers. It's added him as the CEO. So that company now exists. So anyone else who gets added from Owen Jewelers, it will connect them behind the scenes. It's added that memo. We've now got the context of in this individual, and then NOAN can recall that anytime. And it's also got the context of our company, so it can connect the dots. And it just works super seamlessly. So we've got a lot of people actually signing up now for using this, particularly when they're working with, sales, when they have kind of real sales relationships that are based on knowing 100, 200, 300, 400 people. Known network is brilliant because anyone in the team can stay up to date on the latest and they've got all of the details about each individual in there. And you can connect obviously your note takers and send in your notes and everything into each contact really easily.
yeah, I think that was one of the questions. It was, can I integrate Known with calendar, email, Drive, so Google Drive, CRMs, etc.
Yeah, so you can currently find, we have some native integrations like Stripe and Google Analytics are integrated into Known, so you've got all your data in one place. And we've got Zapier integrations, so you can send contacts in and search for contacts and update them. We've got a couple of other things I can't talk about that are coming in the next couple of weeks, which will be
Watch this
really,
space.
yeah, watch this space, which are really going to kind of plus those up. And ultimately, what you're describing is really that Known as a new type of platform that's like a business brain. It sits at the center of your business. These type of platforms didn't exist before. And most people's like view of these things is really like Jarvis and Iron Man. You're talking to your company, but that is the reality of what we're trying to build is a business brain. And in my view, you won't go to your CRM, your CMS in future. Like you're not going to. You're going to actually talk to your company. And again, we're very bullish on that. The agents and
Yeah.
assistants will go to those places for you.
It's incredible. I think I'm really excited to see where Known is going to grow to, and glad that we're along for the journey as well as we kind of fraction in and do our 90-day strategies and things. It's amazing to be able to use Known as part of that. So I'm excited as a user, but also just as a partner to see where it goes from here. But yeah, Neil, thank you so much for your time, just getting to connect. If you're interested in Known, definitely pop Neil a message on LinkedIn, follow. He's very quick. That's one thing I'll say. It's always great talking to you because it's like we're just chatting. We can just chat. So yeah,
So
but
you
thank you for
can.
your time.
Thanks a lot.